Welcome to Stop Overthinking, the podcast for overthinkers, people pleasers, and perfectionists who want to feel calm and confident enough to handle whatever life sends your way. I'm your host, Kristen Odegaard, a women's life and mindset coach, lifelong educator, and recovering perfectionist. Tonight, I am talking about emotions and life being 50-50. And what that means basically is that we have an ebb and a flow of these quote unquote positive and negative emotions. And many of us have this idea that we were raised, or that we want to think that life should be more positive than it is negative. And that may be your general life experience, but overall, what has been found is that life really has its ebbs and flows of positive and negative, and when it's all said and done, and you look at all of your different seasons of life, that it really is about 50% of these positive emotions and 50% of negative. It's not possible to only have these positive emotions. And we spend so much time resisting these negative ones that we actually make it more difficult for ourselves, and we can make it more difficult to even get to the positive ones. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we come up. So embracing this idea that we have both, and that is the natural part of life, that's a natural part of our human experience, that can help us, because it means that if we are having some of these heavier or more negative emotions, if it's a moment in time or a season, we know it's not going to last forever. That it's going to come back around, and we will have more of those positive ones. And I'm not talking about depression and health diagnosis in that capacity. But when you recognize that we have this back and forth between our positive and our negative, that you can more easily accept some of those negative emotions, because you know that's just part of life. I'm not going to stay here. And when you stop resisting, you create space for more of the things that you do want in your life. Most people have a larger vocabulary of negative emotions, words, than they do of positive, so that you can probably take a moment and think of what you consider negative. Fear and anger and disappointment and guilt and shame, being frustrated and critical and judgmental, and all of those things are negative. We tend to skew more negative. If people say, well, what are good emotions? What are positive emotions? And a lot of people can say happy. And then they get kind of stuck. So one of these pieces is also just to be a little bit more aware of what are some of the emotions that make you feel good. For me, that's feeling at peace and calm. It might also be inspired or optimistic. So all of these things, but again, we tend to skew more negative. So one thing is, if that's you, to just be aware of it, and being aware to be able to name those emotions. The other piece, we tend to go through life, this is just a circle with a line in the middle, thinking that positive emotions are naturally better than negative emotions. And positive is up here and negative is up here. And I'm asking you to consider to flip it, okay? And that it's not about one being better than the other. They're next to, and they work together, and it's equal parts. Okay, so that we have our positive emotions on one side and the negative emotions on the other. What happens often with people is, if they are feeling that these are positive emotions over here, and they do not want to go over here into negative territory, and so they get stuck at that center line and so badly resisting going into negative emotions, that you're actually making, instead of just having this negative emotion where you're angry or frustrated, that then we start heaping on, well, I shouldn't feel this way, and why do I feel this way, and I don't want to go over there. And we end up taking something that is fairly small and putting layers and layers and layers on top of it and making it bigger than it is. So it snowballs. And so that's one of the reasons why we're like, ugh, I don't want to go over there. I don't want to feel that, because we have often made it a much bigger feeling with layers on it than it really needs to be. So if that's you, again, you just start with being aware of that. But instead, where we want to get to is just being able to feel that frustration. And we're like, yep, we know. You probably know where it comes from. You deal with whatever the situation is and the thoughts that are coming up about this other person or this situation, and it passes. And then we can kind of go back to our back and forth between the two instead of getting stuck into not just this frustration, but all this other crap that we heap on top of it. And for so many people, what happens is they get stuck in the center line of emotion because you're so badly resisting going over into the negative part that you can't even feel the positive, and you just get stuck in this myth in the middle. Because I don't want to go over there, but if you're resisting negative emotion, you're resisting lots of things. There's so much energy. You don't have the energy to really be able to feel the upside, the lightness, and the joy that you want on the other side either. So resisting those negative emotions, saying, I don't want to go there, I don't want to feel that, is also preventing you from really having the good times too. And you may not realize that when you're in the moment. So just inviting you to consider that possibility and think about it. So from there, and I just want to expand a little bit on that feeling those negative emotions aren't really things that we were taught. And this is a big part of what I do in coaching. If you were brought up in a family, in a home that was like, don't cry, or I'll give you something to cry about, or big girls don't cry, or I won't even get started on, boys and not having emotions, but being able to stuff things down because you knew that you needed to keep other people happy, or that you felt you were only validated and accepted when you were making other people happy. And when you're doing that at your own expense, it just completely throws off our equilibrium. And so being able to find that natural point for yourself when you haven't been there for so long can feel really challenging. And so that's part of what I do as a coach, is just helping you to find that, giving you guidance on some things to do, some things to think about, exercises that we may walk through. And it's not because I'm trying to get you to feel all of these bad things, but recognizing that we do have all of these different emotions. And when you stop resisting the bad ones and understand that this is our part of life, this is part of our human experience, it opens you up. When you're able to have this whole spectrum of emotions, then you've got even more on both sides that you can get to. So you can experience more joy, more lightness, more freedom, because you aren't stuck in the middle going, no, I don't want to go there. I can say I spent a lot of years living in that middle part, and I had no idea. And so right now, it's not that my life is 100% like happy and joy. Everybody's got BS to go through. But I know that there are going to be things that are more difficult, that are more negative, that are more challenged, and there's also going to be more of those higher experiences on the other side. And that's the place where I really notice is more lightness and more freedom. It's not that those negative things were happening anyway. I was the one who was actually pushing it down and making it worse, and being able to refocus and change those patterns. It got me out of the middle so that I could truly have those good experiences and enjoy them more. The negative was already there. And instead of mucking stuff on top of it, that actually feels a little bit lighter. And then I've got more of those happy ones. So it's not a matter of just be happy all the time. And I have said it before, I'm not a fan of that saying because it's not possible. There are going to be negative things that happen. People get sick, people die, we have hurricanes that are devastating. People are going to do things that impact you and throw you for a loop. And we have to deal with it. So being able to be more agile and navigate how to deal with those negative emotions that doesn't keep you pushed down, resisting, using even more energy, That's our goal, so that you have brain power and time and energy that is freed up for more of the things that you do want in life, whether that's the things that you want to feel differently, or if that's the way you want to change and to make things happen differently.
So, as we go into this holiday season, I want you to remember this concept of 50-50 and the ebbs and flows. We hear so much about it being the most wonderful time of the year, and it might be about 50% of the time. Holidays can be special and memorable and full of good times with your family and friends, but they also may trigger overwhelm and stress and less healthy behaviors or even feelings of sadness and resentment. And so I want to invite you to a free webinar that I'm hosting on Monday, December 11th at 7 p.m. Central Time. This is free and you do need to pre-register, but it is about navigating the holidays with calm and confidence and ease. And we're going to talk about what your challenges are in creating the holidays that you desire, and to know what your personal signs and symptoms of overload are and how you can manage your own expectations and stress so that you are ultimately feeling more joy and happiness rather than being stuck in the muck of the negativity. So I will put the registration link in the show notes. Again, it is Monday, December 11th at 7 p.m. Central Time, and this is free. It will last about an hour with time afterwards for questions, and it will be recorded if you can't attend live, and I can send it to you afterwards. So please register. I hope to see you there, and have a great week. Thank you for listening to the Stop Overthinking podcast with Kristen Odegaard. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone else who would benefit from the message. To learn more about working with me and links to social media and free resources, head over to my website, coachwithkristen.com. That's Kristen spelled Kristen. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. Have a great week.